I'm joined by Frank Dalena, the host of Bring the Juice podcast. Frank, I appreciate you joining me today.
Glad to be here. Excited to be on the pod. Heard good things. Trying to keep it rolling.
Sounds good. So just first thing I wanted to talk to you about is Bring the Juice podcast. What was your inspiration behind it? I know it's elite athletes chasing greatness outside of sports. Just what was your inspiration behind it? And, what do you hope the message is when you do your own podcast?
Yeah, I appreciate the shout out. The Bring the Juice podcast. It was something I kind of had on my mind. Was on a few other people's podcasts. They said I was good at talking to people. I've been told I had that trait in the past, and I kind of found myself. I was actually my family farms, and I was out in the middle of the farm. Had to be out there for a little while. Long days, lonely days, and just got me thinking of, hey, I'm in a unique position in life right now where some of my best friends are in the NFL. I'm training with Olympians from all countries every day. I had a great experience playing Division I college football, and I have friends that played at different schools other than Fresno State. When you're an athlete, you kind of have this mutual respect for other athletes at your caliber. And being from Fresno, there's so many big names here. There's so many, people sleep on the valley, I think, more than any place in the country. And just to have them in my own backyard, and I thought it was a good opportunity to give them a voice for one, but more than anything, I was battling things where, I don't slide skeleton all year. When it's wintertime, there's no ice. You're training, you're lifting weights, you're sprinting, you're doing all that good stuff, but you got to do normal life too. You got to make money. You have to provide for a family, whether it just be you or, your future family. And it's a grind, and it's different than sports. But I wanted to, as much as I try to succeed in sports, I wanted to have that same mindset, that same effort, that same mentality, and apply it to business. Apply it to how am I going to make money and provide for my family someday? How am I going to, what are my goals now? And a lot of it had to do with self-bettering myself. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but I was interested on how I could relate that grind from athletics, which that was kind of my thing. And how can I translate that into just day-to-day life while still being a good role model, a good man, and being successful. So all those chips kind of fall together. And next days on the farm, I said, you know what? I'm in a unique spot. I want to pull trigger on this experience, and created the Bring the Juice podcast.
I know you're up to 11 episodes now. I know you just posted one or did one with Marcus McMarion. So I mean, just what kind of stories have you learned that from these athletes? Like you said, some of them, may not go on to play in the NFL, or some of them may have to take care of their family outside of sports. So I mean, just what kind of stories have you learned, in doing this podcast?
Any sports fans at any age, we go to these games, we cheer on a team, you draft people to your fantasy football teams, you buy their jerseys at the local shops and all that. And especially in a game like football, where in reality you're wearing a helmet the whole time. You don't really know what that guy is. Marcus Marion, I don't know if everybody knew who he was if they was walking through the mall, but they knew that if he was walking through the mall with the Fresno State football jersey on that said number 6, they know that it's Marcus McMarion at that point. And what people don't, I think, take into account enough is that, these guys, they're college kids. I mean, even the guys in the NFL, you're 23 years old, you're a young man, but that's pretty young still to have that responsibility, to have grown adults texting you bad things in your DMs, or you see bad things on social medias, or someone writes something bad about you in the paper. You hold a lot of pressure to yourself. You have a lot of responsibility, and a lot. You got to hold the rope is one thing we called it, was being pull your weight on things and do your job, but there's consequences that people have. And Marcus is a good particular case where the quarterback, if you lose a football game, you blame the quarterback more times rather than not. Doesn't necessarily mean it's his fault. If he threw an interception, maybe it could count as an interception on the stat book, but maybe it bounced off the receiver's hands. Maybe the receiver ran the wrong route, or the offensive lineman missed his block and he got hit while he threw. It's not always so black and white, but nobody cares. At the end of the day, you threw that interception. At the end of the day, you missed that play. You dropped that ball. You struck out, whatever it might be. And you got to go home and take your jersey off, and you got to go to bed at night. And it's not like it just goes away. Like once you leave the stadium, like you're still that human being. You're just a kid, or you're just a young man, or you're just an athlete who loves the game, is trying to be great. But you hit this level, and that's one thing I want to. I talk about having elite athletes on. George Helmuth had a great phrase in his one of my early episodes. It's just, I'm not an elite athlete. I worked my butt off and got to do some cool things, and I found a way, which is one thing I believe in. You can always find a way on things. But just because you're playing Division I, it doesn't mean you're an elite athlete. I mean it in the sense of you've been around that pressure. You know what it's like to play a sport where it's not just you playing a sport. It's a business that you're involved in, and if you don't pull your weight, they'll get rid of you. They'll cut you. You're going to get some bad things happen to you in the sense where your life's not as good when you're losing compared to when you're winning. So to have these athletes on, some former, some are still playing, they each have an angle that I try to approach. The guys in college, I had Jake Hainer on, Haley Dulcini, the softball stud. I mean, they have a spotlight, and they got a lot of responsibilities. You could get paid now as a college athlete.
So you were talking about how, on your podcast, these athletes are more than just, like you said, a Fresno State football player or a Fresno State softball player. They're actually human beings. But it's like, for instance, you were talking about Jake Hainer. He was on your show before, and, last week, they lost to Hawaii, and most people might blame him because he's the quarterback. But, your show is bringing more of the human element to him.
Jake Hainer's a good example. He, 2 weeks ago, they went out, beat UCLA. He's the hero. Everyone loves him. But, he's in the Heisman race. And then this last week, they suffer a hard loss to Hawaii, a loss that they know they should have won, a loss that they wish they had back. And if I think things were done a little bit differently, they could have won the game. But at the same time, Jake Hainer is the same guy, the same quarterback. And I'm not trying to speak for him. He's one of my good friends. But he has to go home and take his uniform off and go at home at night. Everyone hates him. He thinks that they lost the game, and that's the part of the pressure you have playing as a quarterback. But at the end of the day, he's a 20-something-year-old kid who has his helmet on and is balling. But if you saw him walking through the mall right now too, half the people wouldn't know him. He's just another white dude in the mall, just doing whatever. These are human beings that have all this pressure on us, and it comes down to the mental side of things. The mental health of things comes a lot of ways, and I'm not necessarily a mental health guru necessarily, but I do think that you have to reflect back on your mental game as an athlete, because this game, anything you do in life, it's 90% mental, 10% physical. I truly believe that. I think it might even be higher than that. If you want to do something, you can, but being able to stay calm, cool, and collected, and be able to wake up after you took a loss or even a big win, be able to say that was a good win, I still got more work to do, things of that nature. It takes a certain mindset, and you develop it over time. Anybody who was a freshman at one point playing Division I sports, if they made it all the way to their senior night, I guarantee you they matured mentally leaps and bounds, probably 100% of people. I'd put money on it every single time. But that's one of the things, Bring the Juice, we talk about. People don't get to see that side of what does Jake Hainer do to reflect when he took a hard loss. What does he do when all this pressure's on him to be successful, and what's going to happen? And it's not just Jake Hainer. Like I said, I try to spread the net as far as I can. Guys who come from different backgrounds, girls too, different sports, things of that nature, because everyone has their little niche, that thing they reflect back on, whether it be an experience or something that happened, something that they learned, they developed. I mean, I don't want to ruin the Jake Hainer episode. You guys should go check it out. But he talks about the concept of meditation. It became a trait for him. Marcus, the episode drops October 7th. I don't know when this episode's dropping, but Marcus reflects on all kinds of stuff. That guy's on a different wave of things that we scratched the surface of what he's on. And it's more and more and more and more. Quincy Pondexter played in the league, almost had his leg cut off. Well, when you're in the NBA, everyone loves you until you're not playing. Then nobody really cares about you. You're just some tall guy. Quincy had to come back to all these things, and it's hard mentally. Like, it messes with you. All in all, Bring the Juice podcast has a lot going its way. But I think if you're a young athlete, if you're a current athlete, if you were an athlete, if you're the mother of an athlete, any of those traits, we're all athletes, whether that be through business, as a family, as a role model. We're all competing to be the best version of ourselves we could possibly be. And all Bring the Juice does is exemplifies that from an athlete standpoint. People who have been through that pressure or under that knife right now.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is for some of the athletes, high school athletes that follow me on Instagram or follow the show that I put on.
Yeah.
They are right now, they're playing football and they're not getting college offers right now. I know your journey. You went from San Joaquin Memorial, you walked on at Fresno State, and you actually played for 5 seasons for Fresno State. So just what would you tell those college or those high school athletes right now who might not be getting any offers, just about your journey and the advice you'd give them, if they're not seeing the work that they think is paying off right now?
Yeah, I love getting asked that, and it's cool. I was talking to DeJounte O'Neal, who he played at Bullard. He originally walked on to State too, and we were kind of the only guys between me, DeJounte, and George Helmuth, who I knew at least from Fresno, that eventually came to walk on at Fresno State and try to make something out of it. No, there wasn't that many Valley guys on the team. Now half the team seems like it's from the Valley. And we used to, joke with each other. Not joke, but we used to embrace. We call each other the 559. Just because when you play for the Dogs from the Valley, you take a lot of pride in that. It's something I think everybody in high school from the Valley wants to do. People go to the games. They see the guys run down the tunnel. They get to watch you on ESPN. Who wouldn't want to play for Fresno State if you played at high school in the Valley after watching that UCLA win? I mean, that's the most. It doesn't get more electrifying than that. My brother got to win there. I got to win there. My mom's 2-0 in the Rose Bowl. She's excited about it. But as far as, you don't got any offers or anything, I would say stay the course. My best friend in high school, Ryan Beecher, he was a middle linebacker at San Joaquin Memorial. We were both kind of in a similar boat. We didn't know if we were going to play college football. We only wanted to play Division I big boy football. I'm not hating on any other schools, but I wanted to play in FBS. That's it. He is the same way. We both got our walk-on opportunities in April of our senior year. He walked on at Stanford. We had very similar journeys. A great dude, but more than anything, we even talk about it. Stay the course is the biggest thing. Like, people go to 7-on-7 tournaments. That's great. I kind of missed that era. I played all the other sports in high school. I was a 4-sport dude in high school. Like, I didn't really do that, but it's a big thing now. That exposure is great. But I think people get wrapped up into the social media side of things a lot. I think, there's a lot that goes into it. And one thing me and my brothers kind of talked about and we always agreed on was, like, playing wide receiver, you want to have swag, right? You want to be looking good. You look good, you feel good, you play good. That's Dion, and it works. But when you first get on varsity, and I told my brother Mac this, and I told my brother Joe this, you can't be wearing the tights yet. You can't be wearing all the wristbands yet. You can wear gloves. It's going to help you catch. But you got to earn that. You got to kind of keep building and building and building and building. Point is, stay humble and just work as hard as you can. Every single thing you do, try to win it. Because if you don't, what are you doing? And if you empty the tank every single day, then you're going to go far. From a talent perspective, it's tough. I mean, yeah, you do need to get stats. You do need to have a decent highlight tape. But that doesn't that highlight tape doesn't happen. Those stats don't happen on Friday nights during the fall. Those stats happen when everyone else is sleeping and you got up early to go catch 100 footballs. When you're sprinting hills. My dad used to make us pull a sled. We had to pull a sled all the time. He said it would make us faster. It did. We had to run into hay bales because we'd get used to taking hits and not going down on stuff. it worked. Sometimes it's nitty gritty, but if you're not putting in extra work, it's not going to happen. You have to put in the work. You have to be consistent, trying a way to better yourself every single day. And me, like I said, I'm not the most athletic dude, so I kind of would look at guys like Julian Edelman. He's a role model for me from an athletic standpoint and as a human being. He's a great dude, but one of his big things was he just is he's so technical. He doesn't have the fastest 40 in the NFL. He doesn't have the best hands in the NFL. He doesn't have the best height or muscle or anything in the NFL. But he was a technician, and he was on the same page with his quarterback. And he blocked his ass off, and he did all these great things to where he became obsessed with the process of being great. And he just said, I'm going to outsmart you. I'm going to outwork you. My time at Fresno State, you want to try to get on special teams. That's how you get on the field when you're a freshman and walk on early stages. You got to get on the special teams. Well, how are you going to do it? You got to be the best during the drills, and the whole team does the drills. Don't think that they put the scrubs on special teams. Everyone, I had 4-year starters line up next to me on all my special teams. Like, you got to earn that spot. More importantly, find your edge, find your niche, and just work as hard as you can. And I think kids these days, they have bad body language. I think that they don't believe in trying to be the best in everything that they do. I think they get content. As long as they get their one touchdown, they don't care if they win. I don't think it should be like that. And I never played football in high school, at least, where I was trying to get enough stats so a college would look at me. Me and my brothers, we all kicked, we all played safety, we all played receiver. We didn't come out of the game. And it was just a matter of, I'm going to put every single thing I can into my body and just, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. And if you have that type of dedication and that type of drive and that type of juice, then you might get it. If you're fast enough, you got the right hands, and you're at the right position at the right time. But from a recruiting standpoint, I was relentless. I went to 4 camps my senior year. I broke my hand before it. So I went to the Fresno State camp actually my senior year, going into my senior year season. Had a cast on, caught everything one-handed, won the shuttle drill, so I got to meet Coach DeRuiter at the time. And the wide receiver coach was like, Devontae Adams was just leaving. He's like, yeah, we probably don't need you. Thanks for coming out, though. And I was just like, I was catching everything with one hand, killed it. And I don't look the part, though. I'm 5'8". In high school, I was 140, white boy, wide receiver. And I asked the boys, I have a great high school highlight tape, but once they ask you and they say, how tall are you, how much do you weigh, they didn't like it. I didn't fit their mold per se. But I just knew that I needed a shot. And another thing I knew going into the recruiting game too is, especially as a walk-on, and a lot of these guys, if you ever had Matt Smith on, he would attest to this. A lot of guys attest to this. They're not going to have dudes on that aren't getting good grades, that aren't involved in the community, that aren't grinding, they aren't good role models. They don't want to do, there's enough. You got 110 18 to 22-year-olds. Trouble's going to happen. So you want guys that are for sure not going to be an issue in that sense. You want good locker room guys that are going to boost the team's GPA, guys that are going to do whatever it takes to win. And if you do that enough, then you bring more to the table than just your highlight tape. I was on ASB in high school, was in multiple clubs, was a multi-sport athlete, had over a 3.5 GPA, which compared to all of my friends wasn't that great, but for a college football getting admitted, that was good. And luckily the cards fell in my favor to where I was given just an opportunity. Out of my freshman year, guys who I went through senior night with, there was only 3 of us. They brought in like 37, and we were all walk-ons that eventually earned scholarships, all of us. And there's a lot that goes into it, but it doesn't come down to just being athletic. I think you got to find your way to find a way, put it that way. You got to find a way to find a way. So tell them you got a 4.0 and that you're willing to do whatever it takes. And don't be desperate. You got to have the highlight tape to back it up. But there's more to it than just scoring touchdowns, 100%. And make them feel it. Say I would tell Fresno State I'm really interested in the agricultural program. Show that you care a little bit, And you know, I sent probably 500 emails, and I got maybe 4 responses. And Fresno State, they didn't pull a trigger till late. I was gonna play college soccer, and I did the switch up real quick. But stay relentless with it, and the biggest thing is find your edge, find your advantage, and it'll work out. But none of that even matters if you're not putting in the extra work, and you're not putting in the effort and the time, and the how are you going to have your edge. Because it really comes down to want to. And anybody who makes it far, that they'll say the same thing. There's guys everyone in college football is good at football. They are. Like, if you made it to Division I, you're not bad. But how come only 1% of them go to the NFL? What makes the difference? A lot of it's in the mind. It's the work ethic. It's the body language. It's how they go about their day. Do they go to meetings with notes and notebook and they're attentive, or are they just there? Are they zoned out?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think it's the details. And I think if you could go to sleep every night knowing that you put everything you have into that goal, then that's God at that point. They're gonna take the wheel.
That's great advice, for anybody who is going to go that route. I know one of the last things I wanted to talk to you about was you're a skeleton athlete too. Coming out of Fresno State, I read somewhere that you took a class, history of the Olympic Games at Fresno State. I took that class too at Fresno State, so I know what that class was about. Just this whole skeleton thing. I mean, what interested you about it? How are you doing it right now? And is the ultimate goal, to compete for Team USA in the Olympics?
Yeah, so I took that class, History of the Olympic Games. I took it with Juju Hughes, who was my roommate. It was an easy G, we were told.
Yeah.
The teacher, Mr. Beatty, he was really nice to us, liked talking to the athletes about sports, and he always said, the football team should try out for the bobsled because all of Team USA's are all ex-football players. Kind of kept that in the back of my mind. Kind of ran into them like before graduation, which was the summer before my senior year of football. And I don't know why, just that day I had a trigger in my head where I was like, I know I'm not going to the NFL. I grew up on a farm. My entire life, all I wanted to do was play for the Fresno State Bulldogs and then farm. But, once you're 22 years old, you're a senior, you've made it, you've defined a lot of odds, you've got to do some good things. Like, I found myself, I'm in such good shape, I don't want to just go farm onions right out of the gate. Like, there's something in between. So I did a tryout. I figured out where to do a tryout. I went to Park City, built some relationships with some coaches out there. Was originally going to be a bobsledder. I got talked into doing skeleton, which is by yourself head first. You're going about 80 miles an hour, and it's extremely technical. But they said I'd be good at it because I was fast and I was the right size. So, I finished my senior year at Fresno State for football, and I moved to Utah immediately. Had a place lined up out there. Showed up my first day with my bag and my Fresno State football gear, sweatshirt on, hoping I stay warm, and it's blizzarding out there. And went through what they call speed school, which is basically they teach you how to slide and pretty much how not to die.
Yeah.
And did really well. Was kind of in contact with the coaches where they said, hey, if you really want to have a chance at being good at this, you need to move here, train, and we'll teach you the ropes. So got into a developmental program, was with, I'm training with and everyone trains together, like all the countries even, you're racing against each other every day. But, 3 weeks in, I'm training with Team USA, racing against China, Japan, Italy, the Netherlands, Ghana, Iceland, Virgin Islands, like you name it. I got to meet these people, and it's like, oh, I've been to 4 Olympics, I've been to 3 Olympics, yeah, I've been on Team USA for 10 years, and all of a sudden, like, you're one of them. Like, there is no Pop Warner, let's kind of learn it. Like, all of a sudden, you're racing against guys who have won medals in the Olympics. And it's very intimidating. It's very frustrating at first because you're so used to being the top of the top in football. Like you could hang, you're good. You know your craft. To, you know, you don't know what you're doing. You're just trying not to crash. You're trying not to die on that thing. You're going 80. My whole body's bruised up. It was a very tough. And about probably my fourth week, I wanted to come home. I was just like, my whole right side of my body hurt. You hit about 5 Gs. You hit a lot of G-force. And to put it in perspective, a rocket is like half that.
Okay.
So your head weighs like 160 pounds or something like that. You got to keep it up because you're going head first. And my face was dragging. I couldn't hold my head up. My neck hurt. It was all bad. And finally, I got to the point where I turned a corner a little bit, started doing things a little bit better, and my coaches were, I was getting some positive reinforcement, which I needed. But it was a hard part as an athlete. I mean, it was going from you're really good at your sport to you suck and you're getting beat every day. You're getting in the last place. To now you're getting in, third to last. To, then you're kind of you're on the front half, and it's hard though. The second youngest dude after me that I was competing against, he's 31 years old. Like most people are, it takes a long time to get very good because the difference between a guy who gets first place and 8th place is half a second. It's nothing. So it took a lot mentally to learn how to train, how to get better at the sport, and I was just blessed to be able to compete. I had to get sponsors because they don't pay for anything. Nobody pays for anything. Even Michael Phelps doesn't get paid for anything in the Olympics. You're all self-funded. So I got great support from back home. Reached out to a couple brands. They threw me some love, and I'm just trying to put on for Fresno, the Valley, the Dog, the USA at this point. My status itself, by the end of last year, I was doing really well. Got to race in the North America Cup, Utah Games, a couple like trial type things. And it was really, really awesome experience. My family got to come watch me. My friends got to come watch me. And I felt, by my last week sliding, I felt a sharp pain in my calf. I ended up tearing a piece of my calf and found out I have a large blood clot in my leg.
Wow.
Which was kind of weird for me because I could suck up the calf, but that was my first thing that happened to me ever in my life where I didn't know how to respond to it. Definitely took a little bit of a toll out of me, and again, it's one of the reasons this podcast started is how are you going to respond mentally? I'm in Utah training, freezing my ass off, but everyone's in Fresno cheering for me. Well, I don't want to let them down, and I definitely bit off quite a bit, saying, hey, I'm some kid from Fresno, I'm trying to go to the Olympics a year and a half, learn a sport that people have been doing for 15 years, but I'm trending in the right direction, and obviously the Olympics is the goal, and I've got to compete where my name is up at an Olympic track every day, and it says Frank Dalena, USA next to it, and that's a feeling that I didn't think I would have if you would have asked me that my third game into my senior year of football, when this was still a let's see how it goes type of thing. So I'm grinding, I'm trying, I'm still kind of pending about where the blood clot thing is. Was a big pill for me to swallow, just to say like where am I at. I want to be able to pick my last day competing as a high profile athlete, but at the same time I've had a hell of a career, and like you said, the walk-off thing, I wasn't even supposed to play college football, and I turned it into something awesome. Got to play in some awesome games and be a part of some awesome teams and win some rings and have some L's, but mainly the friendships and the experiences and the networks and the things that I've gotten to do has led to so many great avenues, and I'm blessed to have those opportunities. And like I said, every day now I wake up, I try to bring the juice, and I try to take that same mentality, that hungry walk-on of a kid who's just trying to not get cut, that high school kid who's just trying to win games. I still try to do that in my everyday life. I think I'm on the right track.
Nice, nice. Well, Frank, I appreciate the time. Where can people, if they want to listen to Bring the Juice, I know you got some merchandise, those hats for sale. So where can they all go to get all the information?
Yeah, we got a little Twitter account. It's like B underscore T underscore juice, bring the juice .pod. That's the Twitter. Not really that active on there, but the Instagram is at bring the juice .pod. We just hit 1,000 followers, and it's only been like a month. The podcast was 74th last week on Apple. Definitely going to the moon. You can buy your hats on there. Feel free to give me a DM if you got anything. I love all the feedback. If you got a recommendation of some sort, I'm always trying to get better, and I want to hear what people have to say. I've been blessed to have positive feedback from both high school players, parents of high school players, just random dudes that like sports. It's something special that I'm trying to keep going to the moon. In the upcoming weeks, we've got some big names, some NFL dudes, Fresno State alums, people that are just trying to be great, guys that the outside world knows as just a number, as an athlete, but they're doing some pretty cool things in their life, and I think people would love to hear about it. So, yeah, give us a follow, subscribe. We're on Apple, Spotify, every single platform you can find a podcast on. We're on, and would love to get some feedback from you guys. Love to spread the message, spread the word, and get it going.
Sounds good. Well, Frank, I appreciate the time. I will put all that information in the description as well. I've seen his hats. He's wearing one right now. They look cool. Go buy those too. And so Frank, I appreciate the time, man, and good luck with everything with you.
Thank you very much. It was an honor coming on to this pod. I'm honest to God, like, I love that people from the Valley are trying to help people from the Valley. It's iron sharpens iron is one of the things I say. You guys are going to the moon. Let's grow together. Be sure I'll repost this, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'm very thankful. So thank you once again, and hope to do this again soon.